If you're like me, there have been times you've wished there was a manual to this thing called life. Well, guess what? There kinda is, and it's called human design. In this episode of The Brain Changes, I've welcomed human design expert Alice Torgs from Empowered by Alice to share this incredible tool with you. Now, during our chat, Alice explained the basics of human design chart using mine as an example and made it so easy to understand. This is a tool that can help your relationships, both personal and professional, support you in creating an aligned life, and so much more. And if, like us, you're a personal development junkie, you are going to love this episode. So stay tuned because by the end of this conversation, you'll be wondering how you ever lived without the manual. So let's go. Welcome to The Brain Changes, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo Rebecca and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to episode 9 of The Brain Changes. It's great to be here with you again today, and we have another very special guest with us today. We have Alice Torgs, who is an empowerment coach, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Alice today. Alice, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. Alice and I actually met, it was only last year, but we have become firm friends. We have so much alignment with what we do and the people that we help and what we are trying to achieve and create in this world. So it's just so, I don't know, there's this synchronicity between us and having you on the Brain Changes today. I'm really excited to share what you do and how it can help people. So just to give people a little bit of an understanding of who you are and what you do, Alice uses human design, and she does this to accelerate individuals' reconnection to their true selves. And she empowers them to build fulfilling businesses or careers that they're really passionate about. And interestingly enough, Alice was actually recognized recently as a human design expert by Australia's leading health and wellbeing platform, Body and Soul, which is a fantastic achievement. So congratulations, Alice.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'd love to just kick off first because a lot of people might have just heard human design. What on earth is that? I have no idea what you're talking about, although some people will know. So I'd love it if you could just begin by explaining what human design is in a nutshell and how it really can empower individuals in their personal and professional lives.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, human design is an absolutely incredible tool that I stumbled upon probably around about 2.5 years ago now. And if you know my human design, and we'll go into that a little bit, I dive into rabbit holes really deeply
Yes.
once I'm passionate about something. And this has just changed my life and the lives of so many of my clients. So what it is in a nutshell, it's kind of like a personality profiling tool, but one that is next level. So what I mean with that is it incorporates astrology, the Tree of Life Kabbalah, the I Ching, the human chakra system, and quantum physics. So you can already see and hear that it is just very different from
Mm.
the other personality profiling tools that exist out there in the marketplace that some of us may have come across, like Myers-Briggs,
Yeah.
like Enneagram, like DISC even,
Hmm.
because those ones are largely based on questionnaires.
Hmm.
And I find those questionnaires very situational, depending on where you are in your life, where you are in your career, which company you work for, et cetera, et cetera. Human
Hmm.
design is based on your time, place, and date of birth. So you
Right.
can't fudge that, which I love.
No, he can't. And a question there that might come up for our listeners is, do I need to know the exact time of my birth? Because I know for some people, they don't know that. Even I've asked my mum about 5 times. She goes, oh, I think it was about lunchtime. I'm like, okay, that's open for interpretation. So does that matter?
Look, it matters and it doesn't matter. So it depends,
Mhm.
obviously, how deep you want to go into your human design. I've got another tool in my backend that if somebody doesn't know their time of birth, where we can go in and actually have a look at the accuracy of that time. So if somebody says to me, look, I was born in the afternoon, I basically run their chart in hourly increments and just have a quick look at what changes.
Mhm.
Chances are it's not
Mhm.
that it's too much that's changing, and we can
Right.
then perform the reading at a fairly accurate rate and with a good confidence that it is accurate. There might be the occasional thing where it's a little bit of a question, but
Mhm.
sometimes that also comes back to how have you actually been conditioned to live
Mm.
your life? And is what is in the chart your true self? Or have we been living a story that we have been told all our lives?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because, of course, a lot of what we talk about on this podcast is about our beliefs, our values, how they were formed, where they came from. I think you just said it, what stories we're telling ourselves, and then what that means that we're getting or not getting from our lives, what we're actually able to achieve. So, on that, what does understanding one's human design chart help in making better decisions and aligning with true purpose, or just finding what it is that you want in life?
Look, one of the great things about human design is really the fast tracking back to your most authentic self. Because as you and I would know, we have been doing inner work for such a long period of time. It's always like, well, is this me or is this not me? Is
Hmm.
this a story? Am I really passionate about this? Is this really one of my values? Is this really an area that I want to dive into? And when you
Hmm.
have a look at your human design, it's your Google Maps take me home. And don't
Right.
take me via another country, and don't get me into a dead end road, and don't take me through the traffic jam. I want
Hmm.
the fastest route home. And
I
so
love that analogy.
it's the easiest way to explain it, really. And so
Yeah.
when you have a look at then making major life decisions, you can always refer back to this roadmap or blueprint, whatever name you want to give this, to see, well, hang on, am I trying to do something for somebody else that pleases somebody else, or am I doing it for
Mm.
myself? And is it in alignment with who I am? So
Mhm.
when we talk about purpose, purpose is obviously such a used word at the moment, and everyone is trying to align to their purpose. Our purpose really is to come back to our most authentic self, to come back home to ourselves, and to live our best life. That is our purpose in a nutshell. How you then live out your purpose comes back to a couple of components that sit within the chart that might help guide it. But you can really live your purpose in so many different ways. And there is nobody sitting up there saying, oh, you didn't live your purpose in that exact degree that I had planned out for you. And so you've been living your life wrong. That's not the case. It really is the case that we should be lit up by what we're doing, energized by what we're doing, and really moving away from this hustle mentality, burnout mentality, wearing that as a badge of honor,
Mm.
which only causes us diseases, which causes us anxiety, which causes us depression, and come back to living like what it's true for us, our energetic type, and everything that we came here to be.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And you're right. I think, and I talk about this a lot as well, about finding one's purpose, or your higher purpose. How, or what is it that is going to fulfill you in life? And it does seem like one of those words and terms that is overused at the moment. But at the end of the day, it's what we're here for. What is the purpose that we're here for? And it's funny, I've heard people say over the years that, well, we don't come with a manual, but you're actually saying that we kind of do come with a manual,
We
aren't you?
kind of do. I know. And I think we were going to dive into this a little bit later. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
what do you want for people to know about human design? Yes, there is a manual. and
Yes.
and this is just so liberating because there is so much awareness and so much knowledge that sits within the chart. And obviously, the majority of people think, oh, I'm just going to have a look at my chart to understand myself better. But just have a think about the relationships, the teams, the workplaces, the schools.
Mm,
That would just open up so much awareness where we could live in a much more harmonious way because we would not judge so much about the path that somebody might be on or the way somebody might react or the way somebody might perform a task.
mm,
And this is really where my hope is with human design. Now, I have obviously focused on a particular area where I'm trying to empower people to, run the businesses that they love, be in the
mhm,
careers that they love, create the lives that they love. But there is
mhm,
other people that have taken human design to completely different levels.
mm,
Because when we have a look at the energetic makeup of a person, you could even argue that you could take this to a healer, to somebody who does your Reiki, somebody who does
mhm,
your acupuncture, and just say, well, this is my energetic map. Have a look
mhm.
at it and see what you make out of it and see where I might have blocked energy that has been sitting there for a while that we can just now start getting moved out of the body.
Ah, that's interesting because I'm a big believer in, that cliche that it takes a village, but I don't believe that there's one person who can solve all of our issues for us or treat us. I've got a massage therapist, I've got a chiropractor, I've got an acupuncturist, I've got a naturopath, I've got a human design expert, I've got a Reiki healer. And I love the idea that we can actually use this tool to help them do their best work for me to get the best out of myself. So
Yeah.
I hadn't
Yeah.
even thought of that before you said
Or
that.
just imagine if, this would have existed back in the days where we went to school and our
Yeah.
teachers would have had
Yeah.
just a very rough awareness of who are we designed to be. And
Yeah.
no, we're not trying to be a pain in the butt. We're trying to just ask questions because we need to satisfy the curiosity of our mind.
Oh, yes. Look, 100%. I love that idea. School, the workplace, even the fact that we all have different learning styles, that some of us learn visually or through listening, or others of us need to do it before we learn. That kind of thing doesn't, well, I'm talking about when I went to school, that certainly was not a thing. Nobody talked
No.
about that. We were just told, this is how we're presenting the information. This is how you learn it or be in trouble. So I love that idea that teachers, managers, leaders are taught how to interpret this, and that we all know that everybody's different, but how do we actually find that information and then utilize it? So on that, we were going to talk about my chart today, and I'd love
Mm.
to talk about that in just a moment. One question before we get to that: as you know, I work with a lot of people with anxiety,
Mm.
and I would love to know how human design helps that. So, I think one of the theories that human design has is that the more you move away from your true self, it can cause a level of anxiety. So, perhaps because a lot of our listeners know that I used to struggle terribly with anxiety and depression, quite open about that. I don't anymore. So I'd love to know if you can talk to that in terms of how human design can help us, know more about that.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of theories around that. And obviously, when I give my interpretation, I'm not saying that people don't have depression, that people
Mhm.
don't have anxiety that might come from a completely different aspect. But the one that I'm referring to is really around what you just said. The further that we get away from our most authentic self, the more imbalance we feel within our body. And that may represent itself through chronic illnesses, like it was my case.
Mhm.
Perhaps, it may have been a contributing factor to your anxiety and your
Mhm.
depression. And so when we have a look at your chart, I'm looking at the chakra system here. So we've got a chakra system map, and the map either shows that a center is defined, and so it's colored in, or it's open. Whenever we
Mhm.
have a center that is colored in, there is a very fixed way the energy expresses itself. And so for you, there is a lot of pressure that comes from your head. Then the next one down, I call the computer processing system, and then the throat. These three for you are directly connected. And there is
Mhm.
so much going on. There are so many gates that are defined within your chart up there that
Mhm.
one could presume that if you don't have an outlet and you don't understand how to utilize that to your advantage, you may potentially end up with a feeling of depression, a feeling of anxiety, a feeling of overwhelm. And so, for people that have so much going on in the chart up there, I just say, well, you are the type of person that needs to share information and needs to share ideas as much as possible. Those ideas
Mm.
are not for you to realize, they're for you to share so other people can do something with it. So I'm on
Right.
the contrary, I'm open. So I'm
Mhm.
open to your ideas. I'm open to whatever you put out into the world. And that in itself can be this huge liberation where you're like, oh my God, okay, well, great. I don't have to follow everything that is going on in my head. And
Mm.
the book, The Untethered Soul, which I've just picked up again, talks about how we have roommates within us. And if we just see our brain as, this roommate that lives within us, and we can either choose to engage with the roommate or not engage with the roommate, that's a great analysis. And so
Mm.
for anyone who really has so much going on in that upper part of the chart, you just need to find ways to always come home to yourself, come home to stillness. And whether that is through formal meditation, like we know it from the
Mhm.
teachings, or whether that is through going into the forest and just grounding yourself, going swimming, going to the gym,
Mm.
do more of that, because you just need to have the ability to come to that place of a little bit more calm with everything
Yeah.
that is going on.
That is so many aha moments dropping in here at the moment, Alice. I literally just got a message from somebody that I'm working with because I was putting a question out there saying, what are the kinds of things that you want to know? What do you want to hear about? And they came back and said, one of the things that I want to hear about is how to slow my mind down. And I think this is really common, isn't it? A lot of people identify as an overthinker.
Yeah.
Now, there's so much in that in terms of how we identify. Our thoughts become our reality. If we tell ourselves that we're an overthinker, guess what? We're going to be overthinking. But that's a whole other podcast. What just came in for me there, though, was that, with especially in my chart, so all of this stuff coming into my head, I've got all of these ideas I need to share. And you said we need to do more or have more stillness. So it's that, I guess, and I know I use the word do there, but it's like swapping that do word out with being, isn't it? Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, we are human beings, but we have created this life of doing. So
Yeah.
we've essentially changed ourselves into human doings. And I think often we feel like if we're not doing something all of the time, we're lazy or we're inadequate or we're not
Yeah.
worthy. We've got to be running from one thing to the other. And you
Yeah.
used it earlier, this badge of honor. This everybody who knows me knows that I don't like the word busy. I get that it helps explain some things, but And I do have a laugh about it, but we have created this culture of being busy and that we need to run all the time. And it makes a lot of sense for me, being one of those people who is up in my head a lot. I think a lot, I have a lot of ideas, that I need to spend more time being
Mm,
still, grounding myself. I'm also an air sign, so I need to be out in the air, being able to see things. So, yeah, lots dropping in here. And perhaps why a lot of people throughout my life have said, Beck, you need to be more creative. Use your creativity to
mm.
express some of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
One little tip that I've got there as well for anyone who
mm,
has that defined head, defined ajna, if you are better at processing information whilst you're doodling or whilst you're just scribbling something on a page and drawing, that might be a great way for you to find a level of stillness in between. And again, this is a
mm,
great thing for teachers to understand that if you have a child that just scribbles, it might just be a way for them to get rid of some of that energy that they have going on. It's not that they're not listening, it's just a better way for them to process information. And so,
great tip.
yeah, and even you've got dogs. Spending time with
Hmm.
your dogs. I mean, you're in an instant state of being in the now.
Yes,
So if you cuddle
yes,
the dogs, if you play with the dogs, if you bring playfulness and things like that back into your life, so that you're not
yes.
constantly up in the brain. And it doesn't need to be sitting 80 hours on a mountaintop and meditating. That's not practical.
No, it's not.
How can you find those? So I always have a cup of tea. So have a
Hmm.
cup of tea that is your gratitude cup of
Hmm.
tea. And when you sip it, try and be grateful for whatever it is that you have experienced during the day. Again, it gets you into the now, gets you out of the head.
Yeah,
Journaling perhaps might be great for people that have so much going on. Just get things on paper, get them out of the
yeah.
head. These are just some of the techniques. And obviously, what I said earlier, coming back home to yourself is really questioning, well, how does society tell me I need to live?
Hmm.
And how do I actually want to live? Because so many
Yes.
of us are told, we need to have the mortgage, we need to have the kids, we need to have the career. And then you suddenly find yourself in places where it's like, oh, I thought I wanted that, but I actually don't, because now that I've experienced it, it's completely contrary to what I want.
Yes.
So there is a lot of aspects that play together, but this is sort of where we use the chart to say, I can see you. This is the mirror. This is you. I can see you. And then how do
Mm,
we unwrap the stories, the society norms, expectations, and how do we then actually say, okay, step by step, this can't be a
hmm.
radical change. That doesn't work either.
Hmm.
But step by step, how do you start implementing the changes in your life where you can come home and you're just like, oh, yeah, okay,
Yes.
I'm moving in the right direction.
Yes. Love that. And of course, that's what both you and I do, just using different modalities we do for people. And there's some really great tips in there. And I know sometimes, it's those simple things, have your cup of tea, be in the moment, feel gratitude, journal, meditate, those types of things. And I know, again, these are things that we hear all the time. And I think a lot of people go, oh, I don't have time for that, or it can't be that simple. But actually, these are things that civilizations have been doing for centuries.
Mm,
And there's a reason for that.
mm.
And the reason is that they work. And, I know there was a time years and years ago, like I'm talking more than 10 years ago, where somebody actually handed me a book about mindfulness. And I was like, oh, seriously? It can't be that easy. Like, I threw the book away. There's got to be something more complicated. And I complicated it for myself.
Oh, we're good at
And,
that.
oh, we're so good at that, aren't we? I think especially these, and I'm using air quotes, overthinkers.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
but it actually can be that simple. It does take time, it takes patience, but of course, there's not just one answer. We do need to know ourselves a little bit better as well. So on that, I would love to. I wanted to ask you about a real life example, perhaps of how this works. And as I said, I'm happy for you to use my chart. If you would like to bring that up, for those of you who are actually watching the video, we're going to bring that up on the screen. And Alice is just going to give us a very, very brief, obviously, we could talk about this for hours, but a very brief overview as to what the chart looks like and what we're seeing here. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, perhaps include this in the show notes so that you can follow along later.
Yeah.
So, Alice, what can you tell about me looking at this particular chart?
Yeah. So one of the things with human design also is when we talk about, trying to make things complicated, we can overcomplicate human design to the nth degree. I have been intensely studying this now for almost 3 years, and I still don't know everything about it. I could still go into further rabbit holes. But for anyone who's completely brand new to human design, there is a couple of aspects that I would love for everyone to just be aware of.
Sure.
And if you first of all wonder where Beck got her chart from, on my website, we're going to include that in the show notes as well.
Yes.
You can run your free chart on my website. And what you will get as a result is one of these looking charts. And so when we have a look at Beck's chart, you can obviously see the astrology playing part on the left and the right-hand side with the numbers and then the planets. You can now also see the human chakra system, how I've referenced that before, together with the colored in centers and the black little gates that are colored in. And then we have those energetic channels. Now, it is my job to interpret that. So it's not your job to try and figure out or Google what all of that means. That's my job to interpret that for you.
Yeah, because most people are going to look at this and go, I have no idea what that means. That's why Alice is the expert.
Exactly. So for the minute, do me a favor, ignore that top part and just go down the text. So we have what's called an energetic type. There is 5 different energetic types. Beck and I are both manifesting generators, which means we're multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate people. We are the people that have such a broad knowledge base that if you want somebody who can draw a little bit upon all sorts of different teachings, then with us, you're in the right place. When it comes to decision making, that's where inner authority comes in. So there's a couple of different ways for us to identify how our intuition speaks to us. Beck and I, we're both emotional decision makers. So yes, we have the gut feeling, but then we also need to wait 24 to 48 hours to come to clarity around what our decision should be. And so this is great for anyone who wants to make major life decisions in the job or in even their business. We then
Can I tell you, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there, Alice. Can I just say that when I heard that, when I discovered that part in my human design chart, that was like the biggest light bulb moment for me, because I am one of those people, I'm sure some of our listeners will relate. I'm one of those people who gets so wrapped up in the moment and I get so excited and I'm like, yes, I'm going to do that. Book me in, book that holiday, book that night out and whatever. And then I fall into a hole of remorse.
Yes.
I'm like, it could be a week out, 2 weeks out, 6 months out. And then it gets closer and closer to that time. And I'm like, why did I make that decision? I don't feel like doing that right now. Or it's actually not aligned with what I want to do. Or I spent money on that rather than on something else. And it was like this, it feels silly to say, I must admit, but it's like this gave me permission to say, that's a great idea. Let me think about it and I'll come back to you, just to make sure that it was aligned with the life that I want, the things that I actually want to spend my time on, and not feel then bad about trying to get out of something down the track.
100%. And again, if you take this into a team environment with colleagues that you're working with, having people that make those instant decisions versus having those people that need to sleep a night over it can be incredibly frustrating, because then if you don't have the awareness of the different types, managers or colleagues might think you're just trying to be complicated. You're just trying to delay the process. But it's actually not. It's actually honoring your inner guidance system. And this is what we need to come back to more, so we don't have the buyer's remorse and, deciding that we really shouldn't have said yes to this weekend away. Look, I'm exactly the same. And again, I just need to remind myself to always come back to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah, yeah. So we then obviously have things that are a little bit more detailed, the profile, the incarnation cross. So what I want you to have a look at for yourself in your chart is your signature and your not self theme. These are two very simple guideposts that you can start utilizing from today, and it will already, just like Beck said with the decision making, make a very big impact on your life. So for Beck and I, our signature and not self theme is satisfaction and frustration. So, what that means is we have two guideposts on either end, and we need to take a look at our lives. We need to take a little bit of an audit to say where in our lives are we satisfied and where in our lives are we frustrated. Now, these are not the same words for every energy type, so you need to have a look at what your energy type is. And then we can have a look and say, okay, well, where do we need to start setting some boundaries?
Mhm.
Because the things that frustrate me depletes my battery, depletes my energy. And the things that satisfy me, I should be doing more of. And
Right.
again, it comes back to society expectations around, well, what's the role of a woman these days? Or what's the role of a man these days? And it's like, well, but if it doesn't bring you joy, then why should you be doing it? Like, why are we still being forced to do something that we just don't enjoy? Like for me in my business, one of the things is accounting. I don't get any pleasure of accounting. I'm
Mhm.
incredibly fortunate that my partner Stephen is an accountant, and so I cook for him because that brings me so much joy. And I say to him, "Can you just
Right.
do my bass?" And it's like, okay, no problem. Well, he does what he loves. I do what I
Yeah.
love. We both have an energy boost,
Yep.
and we don't have this depletion of our internal resources. It's just a very different way of living. And I know that the 80-20 rule is not always possible, especially when
Mm.
you start a business, when you start a
Mhm.
career. I understand that there is a lot of times where it's impractical to immediately come in and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. But over time, if you have the luxury to carve out a role for yourself within a business, or if you have the luxury to start outsourcing if you are an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, then the first things that you should be outsourcing is what just annoys you the most in your business and what just depletes you. Very simple.
So another example of this, tell me if this is correct. If because I know a lot of our listeners will be may not be entrepreneurs, they may be in a 9 to 5 job, for example.
Mm.
And I know that a lot of roles are a lot more, or a lot of workplaces are a lot more flexible with the work from home type of thing these days. But if somebody has this satisfaction frustration, for example, and one of the things that frustrates them the most is traffic. Could it be as simple as that? Is like they get really frustrated because of waiting or getting stuck in traffic. So this whole 9 to 5 thing might not work for them. They get to work feeling frustrated. They get home feeling frustrated. So they're bringing that negative energy both into the workplace and to home. So one of the simple changes that might be an option there is either to request some more work from home or simply shift some working hours. So starting
100%.
later, finishing later, or starting earlier, finishing earlier, or changing things around. Could it be as simple as that?
Absolutely, 100%. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, so if you get up in the morning and if you're already in the mindset, and we're talking about the mind again, which is such a powerful tool, if you then
Yes.
think about, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck again in Sydney traffic or Melbourne traffic for the next 2 hours, it takes a lot of energy out of you, and it
Yeah.
takes a lot of the limited time that we already have out of your day and out of
Yes.
spending time with your family. And so,
Mhm.
yes, it's as simple as that. And in your chart as well, Beck, you have a hermit component in your chart. So if you were to work in an open space, where multiple people work in the same office,
Mhm.
that might not be healthy for you either.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So,
Why
and
is
just
that?
again, it's because as a hermit, you need to have opportunities to just retract, to just come back to yourself. And so, if for you as a hermit, you say, I am so much more productive if I'm completely left alone, if there is nobody constantly talking at me or a telephone conversation going on with one of the other guys.
Mm.
If you say, boss, if you leave me alone, 1 or 2 days a week, and I can work from home, I will be so productive. And
Yeah.
I know we're currently experiencing that shift again, that, a lot of people are being forced back into the physical office. And I also know that a lot of people, the minute they are forced to, are putting up their profile on LinkedIn or starting to go on Seek, because it's like, no,
Yeah.
for my own mental health and well-being, I now know I can't do
Mm.
that.
So this is a great tool if you're at that point in life where you're thinking, okay, it's time to change.
Oh,
And, there's always going to be things that we need to work on, working out what we actually do value in life, identifying the beliefs that are holding us back and clearing those. There might even be some past trauma that we need to clear. But then once we've done those things and we have more clarity around what it is that lights us up, what brings us that satisfaction, what type of environments we work in, it would be ideal to know this information so that when we are searching for a new job or a new house or a new partner,
oh yeah.
that we we know what works for us and some of those non-negotiables.
Yeah.
um, and that brings me to the question, how can knowing your human design type help in improving relationships,
Oh,
both personal, professional, intimate, all of them?
everything, everything. Knowing other people better is just removing judgment, and it's removing room for fights and for tension. And so, one of the best things that you could do is obviously start your human design journey as quickly and as early as possible. I see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the things that you have just talked about as a simultaneous path.
Mm.
And
Yes.
so when it comes to relationships, really challenging and saying, okay, well, I was born as this energetic type. My partner is a different energetic type, has a different way to make decisions, has a different way of being.
Mm-hmm.
Where have I been judging my partner for him or her behaving in a certain way just
Mm-hmm.
because that's my belief system and that's how I should be operating? So as I said, I'm the manifesting generator. Stephen is a projector. Stephen needs to live in
Right.
a completely different way. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep up with Stephen in certain areas of my life, I would burn myself out and I would get very, very frustrated because he's got a very limited battery and he does things so incredibly fast because he can only do things within the 3 to 4 hour window.
Right.
And then he,
Okay.
in theory, needs to rest. He doesn't always do it, but
Mm-hmm.
in theory, the rest of the day, he needs to rest. If I'm one of his employees and I'm trying to do tax returns in the same speed that he does it,
Mm.
I would get frustrated. Reverse, if he expects his team to do tax returns the same speed as he does, he sets unrealistic expectations. So there is
Yes.
all this awareness, and you know that we haven't even gone into the aspects of anyone's chart yet. It's just
No.
having this very baseline awareness and just saying, okay, now I understand why this is the way it is. Now I can have a better relationship. I can ask better questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that. Asking better questions, finding the right questions to ask. But before I ask you the next question, speaking of questions, there was one last thing on my chart that intrigues me and might require some further explanation for people. Down the bottom, and I can't remember what the thing was, but it said kitchens. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, in human design, everything is an experiment. It's very important to understand that nothing is set in concrete, nothing is set in stone. Everyone is allowed and invited to experiment with what's presented within the chart.
Mhm.
With kitchens, it's both physical as well as metaphorical. So, if you have a think about what happens in a kitchen, you usually have a couple of different ingredients that come together. You then make a meal, and out comes something different. And so if I think of you, it's a very creative process. So it
Yes.
doesn't say that you need to create a YouTube channel and you need to start cooking and that's how you're going to be successful and that's how you're going to live your purpose. No, what I'm saying is you're going to take ingredients from all these different things. You're going to put them into a big pot and then you're going to put that out according to what your clients need. and there is that creative process involved, and there is that the kitchen process involved. And for me,
Yeah.
it always also means the best parties start in the kitchen, the best parties end in the kitchen.
Right.
So you need to have an aspect of, can you come together with others like me, where we again create something new? So you are in that cooperative environment where you co-create with others, but at the same time, you also honor your hermit, where you can say, okay, I've had enough of the creative process now. Now I just need to recharge, rejuvenate, do the things that fill my cup, in order that I can be back off service again tomorrow and do what I love
Right.
doing. Yeah.
It's making so much sense. So it doesn't mean that I should be a chef.
No.
It just means lots of these ingredients. And I love that analogy of that recipe of bringing ingredients together. And it's making even more sense to me why you and I work so well together. And we've got all these ideas about collaborations and things that we want to do. And
I
gosh,
know.
we will need to be friends for the next 50 years just to get all of this done. But that's
Tick,
okay.
done.
That's okay. So I want to just ask you, what advice would you give to someone who feels resistant or maybe even skeptical about exploring their human design? Because we have talked about astrology and planets and things like that. And I know that most of our listeners, they're very open-minded. They want to make change. They want to understand how they tick. But I know there's a few people out there who are perhaps thinking, seriously, is this a real thing? So what advice would you give them, to anyone who feels resistant about finding out more about this?
Look, sometimes what we resist the most is actually what we need the most.
Yeah, mic drop.
Look, obviously, the great thing these days is there is such a magnitude of tools available to each one of us. I always say something finds you when you're ready for it and when you need it. And it might be the case that you have now heard about human design, but you're not actually going to engage with it for another couple of years. But then something happens in your life and you're like, wow, I'm now at this crossroad and I actually don't know where to go. And it's mainly the time when we start questioning ourselves, our abilities, where something has shaken our confidence. And we just need to find back to ourselves the fastest possible way without having to spend so much time exploring any of the other modalities that might be out there. So, yes, it's not for everyone. I totally get and understand that. The very interesting thing, though, is that the companies that I have been working with, where I have been doing team education, have all been in the financial sector, and the CEOs have all been males. So, perhaps, there might be something within that where people might say, okay, well, it looks a little bit, I'm just going to use the word woo-woo. But if we think about the fact that we're all energetic beings and that we're all unique and designed a certain way, and that we all have a limited battery, and that either, our life is either going to fuel us or the battery is going to be depleted. There is so much information within that. Give it a shot.
Yes.
What can you lose? What can you lose?
Absolutely.
And it's not like horoscopes. Like, I was just listening to another astrologer again just earlier on TikTok, and she was going on about the retrogrades and what's in this degree and what's in that degree and what's in Virgo. And I'm like, boom, like means nothing to me. I'm just like, I'm lost. I don't understand it. Where I am really good at my job is I can turn this into very simple, actionable language that will actually help you make decisions for business, for your life, for your career, that is very grounded.
Yes. And you can turn it into some practical steps. And because we understand the language that we speak, right? So there's a lot of people out there who understand astrology. I'm a bit like you. I'm really fascinated by astrology. I would love to know more, and I want to learn more. But at the moment when somebody's talking about it, I've got that like deer in the headlights face. I'm like, I don't get it. I think I said to you before we started recording, what does retrograde even mean? So I know that's something on my list that I would like to learn more about. But what I love about what you do is that you turn this into practical terms, because you you've all of the things that we've been talking about, as you know, we have so many similarities, but you've been through a lot of this. You have a lot of lived experience
Yeah.
of not aligning with your human design and now aligning with your human design. So, it's not too dissimilar to myself, is that I help people who have struggled with the same problems and issues and situations that I have in my life. It's like we're saying, hey, we've been there, we've done that, we've perhaps made a lot of mistakes along the
Oh,
line.
yeah.
We didn't get it right. Now we know what to do, and we'll fast track you to get you
Yeah,
there. And
exactly.
I love what you said before about, you might have heard about human design before, or this today might be the first time you've heard about it. You may or may not do something about it, but I guarantee you, now that you've listened to this episode, you are going to start hearing about it more, or things are going to happen in your life, and you're going to go, oh, that's right. Now I know perhaps why I reacted that way, or maybe I need to do something differently. And that's your reticular activating system at work, your RAS, which we'll actually be talking about in a future episode. So I guarantee that you're going to start thinking about this a lot more now, and you're going to get curious.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Alice, to start wrapping up, I'm just wondering if there was one thing that you wish everyone knew about human design and its potential, what would it be?
I wish everyone would know their energy type and their signature and not self theme. If these are the only three things that you know about yourself, you can
Mhm.
already greatly align your life to much more flow and bliss. I know that sounds abstract, but I have
Mhm.
seen it in so many cases.
Mhm.
And if these are the only three things that you know, that's already fantastic.
Cool, because there's so much you can do with that knowledge,
Oh,
and
yeah,
hopefully even the examples that we've given today with my chart can show you that potential. I've given
yeah.
you an idea. Cool. So, Alice, you mentioned that anyone can get this chart done for free on your website.
Yep,
Is that right? Yeah.
that's
So
correct. Yes.
we will drop the details in the show notes, but for those people listening, what do they need to do to get this?
Yep. So jump on empoweredbyalice.com and there is a little link that will bring you to the free chart tool. Put in
Hmm.
your name, your time and place of birth,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much it. And then out
Yeah.
will come a free sample report that will already give you a little bit of information around your energy type and your not self theme and your not yeah your signature.
Hmm.
And that's a really good starting point to just start
Yeah.
to get a little bit of a glimpse, read up a little bit about yourself, reflect on it, journal on it, or do whatever, go on a walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and when you feel called to it, then come back and invest in one of the reports. They're not expensive. Um,
Mm.
they're usually $149, which if I think about the mistakes that I've made by buying shoes and dresses and the stuff that is hanging around in my wardrobe, I should have invested in a
Not that
human
there's
design
anything wrong with
report
that.
much sooner.
I
No,
know.
but
I feel
it
that.
doesn't break the bank. And this
No, it
is
doesn't.
really important for me as well, is if you want to start doing the work, it doesn't break the bank. It's very affordable and
Yes,
everyone should have access to it. That's my thing. I want to
absolutely.
spread
And
this
that's
as far and as wide as I possibly can.
100%. We have the same purpose
Yeah.
in life. And you can do this for other people in your family as well. I've actually done it for everyone in my family, including my dad. Now, my dad died when I was 16, but I
Mm.
still did it for him. I had to guess at the birth time, but it gave me a lot of insight into perhaps the person that he was, which, it gave me a lot of aha moments. So I guess what I'm saying here is that you can run this report for as many people as you want that you know the details for. So it's empoweredbyalice.com.au or just .com.
Just.com.
.com. The report is there, and then you often run webinars, online events for
Yeah.
free, very generous, that help people understand each of the different uh, human design elements, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Obviously, we could talk about this for days. I totally
We
understand
could.
that this was just like, a tiny little insight into the world that human design is and the possibility that it creates.
Yeah.
And yeah, Thank you so
It's
much for listening. I really appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today, Alice. It's been wonderful to have you here. I absolutely love the conversation. Thank you all for listening to episode 9 of The Brain Changes. Please remember to subscribe, download, and share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from it. Somebody who loves to get to know themselves a little bit better and could use this. And remember, everyone, when you change your mind, you change your life. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changes. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changes.